Welcome to LSE At Your Desk presentation. So today we'll talk about cultural intelligence, why every manager of today needs it. My name is Anne-Hélène Monsimier. I am a Master in Management student here at LSE and will graduate this year. So why I chose this topic? Well, because the world of business and the world in general has become global. And I think cultural intelligence is now something we can't ignore, especially in the field of business, since companies all have a global scales and frontiers do not exist anymore in that sense. Yet I think a certain degree of local understanding and adaptiveness are necessary in order to successfully manage in a multicultural environment. So that's why I think that being culturally intelligent by understanding what's going on at the local level and having a global mindset is really, really important in order to be a good manager. I also chose this topic because this year I had the chance to have a course that is called Global Management Practice at LSE, and that was given by Dr. Han-Yun Lee. And I really, really enjoyed this course, and I felt it was very relevant for my future career, since I'm going to have to work with a multicultural team and at a global level. So why does cultural intelligence matter to management and to leadership? Well, as I said, it is now a key managerial competency, and it is required from a lot of managers and a lot of global leaders. And this is due to the fact that the world has become global. And now the global leader needs to be aware of those different cultures and needs to be able to manage and deal with these different cultures. So that's why it's very crucial that you are able to assess your CQ level, but that you're also able to develop those skills. The way we'll do it is that we'll first talk about theory, and then we'll talk about how theory can be used into practice. And that's what I call the LSE way, so linking theory to practice. This is the agenda for today. I'll briefly talk about management and leadership and why it is relevant within this global context. What is global leadership? Because now we're not talking about leadership anymore, but also about global leadership. What does theory say about CQ? So this is where I will present you the cultural intelligence quotient. This is all the research that has been done on this topic. And how do we measure CQ? How do we develop CQ? And finally, what are the 4 capabilities of culturally intelligent leaders? So this will be more like overview of the main research that has been conducted on the topic. In terms of practice, I will tell you a little bit more about my own experience and all the observations that I've made when working in a multicultural environment. And finally, we'll conclude on this topic, and I will give you my practical tips for being a culturally intelligent manager. So management and leadership. So what I wanted to highlight on that slide is that a lot of research has been done on how to be an effective manager, how to be an effective leader, and what are the roles that define these positions, these roles. Mintzberg has identified 10 roles for managers, and as you can see, I highlighted them in red. But a lot of roles here, such as figurehead, leader, spokesperson, negotiator, and so on, have to deal with people. And being a manager means that you have to deal with a lot of people and you have to handle a lot of relationships. And I think it's very relevant in the global context because you have those roles in the national context, but they become even more relevant in a global context because you still have to deal with people, but they have different cultural backgrounds, and therefore it becomes more challenging. So that's the same for the leader. An effective leader is someone who's able to accurately assess the situation before taking any decision. So again, the leader needs to understand the people, understand the situation before taking any action. So it's very important that within a multicultural context, managers and leaders are able to assess those differences in cultures. As I mentioned before, these two functions are required to successfully perform within organization. So together, the leader and the manager, they must be able to achieve goals, they must be able to motivate the team and to organize their employees. So which means that, again, they have to deal a lot with people, and this can become much more challenging in a multicultural environment. The reason I wanted to sort of mention managers and leaders together is because managers will soon become leader in their career, and they probably already are leaders at their level. Therefore, it is really relevant here, just because all the literature that has been done on global leadership and cultural intelligence is mainly about leaders, but it's not really about managers. But I do believe that it's exactly the same thing, and managers need some leadership skills in order to successfully manage their team. So that's pretty much the same. So there has been a growing body of literature on global leadership, and global leadership has been studied a lot, and it's actually concerned with the interaction of people and ideas among cultures, but it is not the study of a comparison of different leadership styles. For example, leadership style in China versus leadership style in the UK. So it is just the study of the interaction of people and ideas among cultures. So what's the necessary skill set of the global leader? Of course, the global leader needs the normal leadership skill set, but now the global leader also needs to add a multicultural competence. And how do you acquire a multicultural competence? Well, first you need to have a very good understanding of your own cultural background. And second, you need to have the analytical skills to be able to compare different cultures. And finally, you need to develop your CQ. And this is where the theory comes. So what is cultural intelligence? It is a soft skill. It is about cultural awareness and understanding of other cultures. It is defined as a capability or ability to function effectively across various cultural contexts, but also with culturally different people. It is definitely related to emotional intelligence, but it doesn't mean that someone who is emotionally intelligent within a specific context will be also emotionally intelligent in a different cultural context. So it's very important to understand that. So these are some quotes from the main researchers on the topic. So they have slightly different definition of what is culturally intelligent person. But for example, Thomas and Ingson, they define culturally intelligent people as people who are able to, gradually reshape their behavior according to the situation, according to the people they're facing in their, in the course of their interaction. And basically, what they say is that it is an ability to, constantly adapt your behavior to different cultures. So before, cultural competence was assessed in a quite different way. What we were doing is that we were teaching people about, different cultures. So we were just providing them with some knowledge, and then we were sending them to the countries or to their, international team. And we would assume that they would actually become, automatically sensitive and effective in dealing with those situations. But actually, that's not the case. So it doesn't mean that if you're telling a British manager about, the Chinese culture, if you're giving him all the knowledge about it, it doesn't mean that he's going to be able to actually perform once he is in China. And the findings actually indicated that it is being, culturally intelligent is mainly a personal capability, and it really depends on the individual's motivation, thinking, and adaptability. But fortunately, research has also demonstrated that it is a capability that you can first assess, but you can also develop. So that's pretty good news. This is how you would assess your cultural intelligence quotient. So Early and Ong have developed a scale that is composed of 4 facets: metacognitive, cognitive, motivational, and behavioral. These 4 facets have a total of 20 items. These 20 items are like phrases that you can rate on a 1 to 7 scale. So it's a self-assessment. You have to take the test by yourself and to sort of self-evaluate your capability. So metacognitive refers to how you control, how you monitor yourself, and how you adjust to different cultural situations based on your experience. This is really important because it assumes that you already had experience in different cultural contexts. Cognitive is all about how knowledgeable you are about the system, the values, everything about other cultures. Motivational, it's about motivation, how committed you are to learning about new cultures, how confident you are, and how much do you want to overcome challenges. Behavioral is how you actually implement your action in a different cultural context. So it's all about how do you translate your knowledge into actions. So yes, so this is a test you can very easily take online. It's accessible everywhere, and it's very quick to take. So I just wanted to show you the different items below each of these 4 facets. So this is what you would rate. So you would give a point from 1 to 7 on each of those. So for example, for metacognitive, I adjust my cultural knowledge as I interact with people from a culture that is unfamiliar to me. So you would just, give a point to that according to how you feel about this. Same for cognitive. As I said, this is all about knowledge, how much you know about the legal and economic systems of other cultures, rules, marriage system, arts and crafts, and so on. So these are the real items that you would find in a test. Same for motivational. For example, I enjoy living in cultures that are unfamiliar to me. Behavioral, this is action-driven. I change my nonverbal behavior, and so on. Right, so the culturally intelligent leader, so he has 4 capabilities. He has the drive capability, knowledge, strategy, and action. Drive is about how much energy and self-confidence he has, in finding out about cultures. Knowledge is about his or her understanding about basic cultural forms. Strategy is what he does to actually, interpret what's going on around him. And action is what action he's actually taking to, effectively lead across different cultures. So how does CQ develop? There are 5 stages in the development of CQ. So these are not stages that you should take to develop your CQ, but there are more stages. Once you started developing your CQ, you will go through different stages. So this is in theory. Thomas and Ingson worked on that. So the first stage is the reactivity to external stimuli. So you see and hear things about different cultures, and you at least you see them first. because it's very possible that sometimes when you have no idea about other cultures, you just don't see things. The stage 2 is the recognition. So you begin to recognize other cultural norms. So you see something and you think it just clicks in your head and you're like, oh, okay, I know what it is. And you're actually motivated to find out more about these cultures. Accommodation, it's when you start to accommodate to the norms of the other cultures, and it's, it comes into your thinking. And you can also explain, if you see something in a situation, you can explain what's going on. Assimilation is when you start adopting and adjusting your behavior according to those cultures. And proactivity is when you're perfectly culturally intelligent, and all you do to adjust other cultures is already subconscious. So that's the 5 stages. Of course, this process takes a lot of time, and it is based on experience. If you're never exposed to other cultures, it will be pretty hard to develop this. But if you're exposed to multicultural teams at work, for example, you will be able to develop your CQ. As we mentioned before, it requires the accommodation and assimilation of the knowledge that you previously got, and you have to translate that into behavioral skills. So behavioral skills are all the actions you will take, and that will be measurable if you retake the test later. So this is a very interesting new research that I wanted to share with you, because I just got it about 2 weeks ago. It's a Thomas et al. They wrote a paper that is still unpublished. Well, it's in press. And they worked from Ang's CQS, the scale that we talked about before. And they argued that there's a need for a new scale, and basically they created a short form measure of CQ. And what has changed in this scale is the motivational facet. So now they consider that it should not be included in the test anymore, because although it's quite important in a cross-cultural context, motivation is actually a willingness to do something in a certain way, whereas cultural intelligence, as we said before, is an ability to do something. So willingness and ability are 2 different things, and they believe that when you aggregate them all together, the result is not very accurate. So they just did not include motivation anymore, and they kept the 3 other facets, which are cultural knowledge, skills, and metacognition that we mentioned before. Very interesting research to look at. Yes, so now about practice. I just wanted to share with you my personal experience, because this is the only practice I have about cultural intelligence. I studied for 5 years in a very international context, with students from very different cultures. I think I worked probably with people from 20 plus different nationalities, and it was great. I also studied and worked in China for 2.5 years. I worked in Spain for a while, worked in Germany as well, and will start working in Denmark and have to rotate in different countries for my job very soon. So very international. Thanks to that, I could make some personal observations that I felt were relevant to share with you. I could see in practice, so this is not theory anymore, but I could see in practice that misunderstandings do happen and culture gaps do exist. So you can see them all the time. It does take more time and effort to connect and to gain trust from people who have different cultures from yours. This is also something I could feel when I was working abroad. Not necessarily when you're studying in an international environment, but it's more relevant to the workplace. And that's why I felt that understanding those different cultures was something I had to do. I did it probably subconsciously, but I think this is definitely a skill you need to have. And in order to, to gain insights on those different cultures, I think my key takeaway, I would say, is to show willingness and motivation to adapt to this culture, and also show, a very active interest in the culture you're living in. So if you show interest in the culture and if you're willing to adapt, then it should work. But then it doesn't mean becoming someone you're not. So you have to stay yourself. If you're French, you can stay French. If you're British or Chinese, you have to stay who you are, because that's also very important. And finally, I think it's very important to be flexible. That's something I learned how to be. You have to be super flexible, because if you're not, you will just get frustrated by the situation. And you have to sort of tolerate ambiguity. So this is just a point I wanted to make here. I think there's a very big difference. This is personal. There's no research on that, at least not yet. But being international to me is very different from being culturally intelligent. So most of the people I believe today are international, but not all of them are culturally intelligent. So being international can be, having a broad idea of main cultural differences, having traveled the world, speaking several languages, and so on. But it doesn't mean that you're willing to learn with, or you're enjoying working with different cultures, right? And being culturally intelligent, to me, that's my personal definition, is being passionate and knowledgeable about other cultures, willing to learn from other cultures. So if you're willing to learn, you have to be humble, you have to be open-minded, because it means that you have something to learn from other cultures. Being tolerant and respectful, of course, and finally being able to navigate confidently within a multicultural environment and enjoying diversity. If you don't enjoy diversity, I think you're not culturally intelligent. And if you enjoy that, you will always get the best out of it, or at least you will believe that you can get the best out of it, and you will be able to overcome many challenges of the workplace. So in conclusion, I think that as a manager or employee working in a multicultural context, or working just simply at a multinational firm, it is really crucial to develop your CQ, not only to manage, and lead people effectively, but also to better overcome the challenges of, running an international business, because it is the reality of today. And if you want to develop your CQ, I would suggest that you first self-assess your CQ by taking the test online, and you will be able to identify your areas for improvement. You can eventually, sort of create a personal development plan, and of course, open your mind and challenge yourself if you see any task at work that implies working with, different cultures, people from different countries. Just go for it and try it, and I think it will be very rewarding. And just a little conclusion on the standardized test. As any other test, CQS has some limitations, so you should not take it too seriously, but more taking it as an indicator. And these are my 5 practical tips to develop your cultural intelligence. So think global, think in terms of other cultures. Your own culture might not be the norm everywhere and should not be the norm everywhere. There are many different norms. Always be open-minded, stay open-minded, open yourself to new experiences and new cultures. Be empathic. That's the only way you can actually understand the other and find a common ground with the other person. Be tolerant and humble and respectful of different opinions, points of views. And finally, remain curious. be curious and be hungry for learning new things. This is the bibliography if you're interested in the papers. There are many more, so please do not hesitate to reach out to me if you want to know more about it. And thank you very much for your attention.